folks, it's Abby, and today I'm talking about the books that I managed to read in September. So as always, I have my trusty bullet journal down here with all of the information that I need. I read quite a bit this month, so let's get straight into it. First up, we have 3 big chunky hardbacks from Skullduggery Pleasant. So to go in the order that I read them, we have Tanith Lowe in the Maleficent 7, which comes in at 283 pages. Armageddon, Outta here, which comes in at 411 pages, but I only read 33 pages of this month. And The Last Stand of Dead Men, which comes in at 604 pages, all of these being by Landy. So this was the read for the Dead Famous read-along this month, and I absolutely adored it so much. I think this, apart from the first one, is my favourite Skullduggery so far. Like, I gave this 5 stars. It was fantastic, it was amazing, I adored all of the different interactions. It's hard to talk about for obvious reasons, it's like book 9 or something. Love this so much, always do, but this is a standout so far for me. In terms of the other books then, so I read 33 pages of this because I've been reading the short stories as they slot in chronologically. Really enjoyed this. And this one is all about Tanith Lowe, and I loved learning about her background and kind of rediscovering that. I forgot that was in here, so it was so much fun to read through. If you don't know, these are all rereads for me. I'm completely caught up in the Skullduggery Pleasant universe, and so I am rereading them with the Dead Famous read-along. Then for the book that I actually finished first this month, and that is Cathy's book by Stewart, Weisman and Brigg. This has a long story behind it, but just to keep it short and sweet, because this is long enough, it's got little bits and pieces in here that you can take out, so it's got like napkins and diary entries and things like that that go along with this supernatural thriller, and it's YA, and it's got doodles all through it, and I really enjoyed it. This is something that I've been intending to read since I was about 15, so it's nice that I finally got around to it. And Cathy's book comes in at 143 pages. Paradox Lost by Mann comes in at 238 pages, and if you couldn't tell, this is a Doctor Who story. This one is a lot of fun. We delve back into the Victorian era and go more specifically into time travel than normal. I was about to say, oh yeah, it's got time travel in it, of course it does. But it delves a little bit more deeply into time travel than we usually get within just the stories, and as always, these are really, really fun. Out of the 3 books I've read, this was probably my least favourite, but I've loved them all. The other ones just made me cry and this one didn't. Then for another one of my 5-star reads this month, we have The 5 by Hallie Rubenhold, which comes in at 416 pages. This is a non-fiction which talks about the lives of the 5 women who were murdered by Jack the Ripper. It goes into their own personal history, starting out from their parents, how they ended up in the situation they were in, and it discusses the hardships of women living in the slums in the Victorian era. It's so good, it's so incredible. There's a reason this is hyped. It's fantastic. It's so, so good and very much readable. I know that some people are kind of wary of non-fiction because it can feel like it's really difficult to read. This is very much readable. And another 5-star read, we've got Sabriel by Garth Nix. This one comes in at 367 pages, and I am pissed off with myself that I didn't read this earlier on in my life because I would have loved it. This is a YA fantasy where we follow a young girl who was raised basically in like this boarding school. Her dad sent her off to the non-magical part of the world and was like, you can be raised there and learn a little bit of magic. He lives in the magical part and he deals with death, and at one point he ends up being trapped and Sabriel has to then go save him. Sabriel is our main character. This is fantastic, this is amazing. I adore books where death is a theme. Like, I need more of them. If you have any recommendations, please, thank you. This was just so, so good. I sped through it, I was so absorbed. I am 100% going to read the rest of the books in this series. I want to buy like a beautiful box set because I already know I'm going to love it. 5-star read. Then for another book that I finished off this month, which is Labyrinth by Kate Mosse. This is 706 pages long, but I only read 209 pages of it this month. This is another one where I was reading bits and pieces over time, so I started this a month or 2 ago. But yes, finally finished this one. This is a historical fantasy which delves both in the 1200s and also in the modern day, 2005. It bounces back and forth between the 2 times, and it looks a lot into religion and persecution. It's very, very interesting. I loved the kind of time travel aspects. There isn't any time travel per se, but the fact that we're bouncing between the 2 times I found so, so interesting, and I'm really looking forward to reading the companion novels in the Languedoc series because apparently, as far as I can tell without having read them, the 2nd and 3rd book in the trilogy aren't actually like follow ones, they're just companions, so it should be really good to read. And that's a big book off of my TBR, so I'm very happy with that. Speaking of big books, this edition that I have is 994 pages long, so I'm just going to say that I've read a book that's over 1,000 pages because this edition is specifically shrunk down a bit, and I read 241 pages of it this month, and that's War and Peace. I finished War and Peace. If you don't know, me and Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe have been buddy reading this since the 1st of January 2021. We've been reading at least a chapter a day, sometimes more. In this last month we were reading two chapters a day, every day, just to get through it. I'm so happy it's done. I am still not sure of my rating. Olivia's giving it 3. I think I might also be giving it 3. The war chapters really bring it down. The philosophizing from Tolstoy about like his opinions, and he's presenting them as facts, just gets on your wick by the end of it. There's 2 epilogues, and the second epilogue is just him giving you an essay on his thoughts on Napoleon and history, and it's like, I don't care. So it ended on a really sour note, which is why I haven't like officially given a rating for it yet, because I just need time to sit with it and to sit with the full story. But I did love the peace aspects so much, and I don't watch screen things. Like, I don't watch telly or movies, but I really want to watch an adaptation of this to see if we get any more from the peace side of things, like the character development, and I just want more. So I enjoyed it, but there were also some very bad parts. It's a difficult one. Then for a book that I DNF'd, and that is Double Cross by Malorie Blackman. So I read 90 pages of this, and then it put me in a massive slump for over a week. I couldn't get myself to bring it up. This is all about children being brainwashed and coerced into violence, and I just couldn't read it right now. It was just too much at the moment. So I will pick it up again in the future. I've read this before, it's a reread for me, I read it as a child, so I know the story, and that doesn't help. So yes, this was a DNF, and I'll read it again in the future, but for now I can't handle it just yet. Then the last book that I finished in September, coming in at 452 pages, is The Cauldron of Life by Caroline Logan. This is the second book in the Four Treasures series. Oh my god, it's so good. This was another one of my 5-star reads of the month. This is fantastic. It is a YA fantasy series using Scottish mythology. I adore all of the characters so much. They are the most adorable, cute found family in the universe. I love all of the character development in here. I love the new characters that we were introduced to and how we were introduced to them. It's so good. It is so good. This series is fantastic. It needs to be more loved, because why is it not? It's so good. I really do recommend picking up this series if you enjoy YA fantasy books, because it's so good. I read through this in 3 days. Just checked my tracker's there. 3 days I read through this in. I had to stop myself from just devouring it all in one day. And I did the exact same thing with the first one. The first one is called The Stone of Destiny by Caroline Logan, if you're looking, so yes, really do recommend. And it's also by a small independent publisher called Chronicon Publishing, so check this out. And then I have the books that I read part of in September. Let me grab them, because they were not in the thumbnail spec. First up, I read 66 pages of Fall of Giants by Ken Follett. So as and when I finished Labyrinth by Kate Mosse, I decided that I should really keep going with this method. It works really well for me, so put another big book on there and read bits of it each day. This is a historical fiction set around the events of World War I, so starting before the war breaks out. I don't know, obviously, exactly where it finishes just yet, but we'll see. It's quite heavily based in Wales, in London, and in Washington, with, of course, delving into the battlefields in mainland Europe as well. I am enjoying it, but it is also very misogynistic. So the female characters by themselves, when they are the only ones around, wonderful, fantastic. The second that a man's involved, like, it's just automatically so, like, deferential to the man. There's a lot of sex scenes in here that feel very much like tenuous consent. As always, with all of my videos, the trigger warnings are all down in the description box. So if you do need those, this will have quite a few of them, given the nature of the book. Yeah, some of the male characters are great, but it's Ken Follett himself, it feels like, is writing this misogyny into the book, which is frustrating. I'm still enjoying it whilst not liking that. It's an awkward one, so still reading that. Then when I finished War and Peace, me and Olivia were like, okay, we'll take a break. We'll take a break from reading a chapter every day of a big classic. Maybe we'll pick it up again in the future. So I started The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas, and I'm reading a chapter every day. Shut up. I think it's historical fiction. It was written back in like the 1800s, but I think it was written set even prior to that, I'm not 100% sure, and it follows three musketeers and a young man who ends up joining them in their adventures. I'm not that far into it yet. As of the end of September I had read 25 pages of this. I am further into it now in October. I'm actually quite enjoying it. The chapters are a lot bigger than the War and Peace chapters, so that's an adjustment every day in the morning to try and squeeze in more before work. But I'm enjoying it. I think it's really interesting and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. And then the last book that I've read part of in September is Major Label by Kelefa Sanneh at 126 pages. So this is an advanced copy that was sent to me by Canongate, the publishers, so thank you very much. I am really enjoying this so far. So again, I am further into it now than I was at the end of the month. I'm now like 230 pages into it. This is a non-fiction book about these genres of music, how they intertwine and the history of them, how they developed, kind of how there's a separation between black and white music. And so it's just discussing all of these different genres of music, how they interplay, how they interact, and it's so good. I'm really, really enjoying it. The main reason that this is taking me a long time to get through, I keep stopping reading to go and find the music and listen to the music. It's taking me forever. But I am really, really enjoying this, which is kind of unexpected because although I love music, I would never have thought to pick up something like this until I saw Olivia mention it and I was like, let's have a look, and it just sounded so interesting and I'm so glad that I asked if I could have this arc because I'm really enjoying it. So yes, this will be finished within October. This was actually published yesterday or today as of filming, the 7th of October, so definitely go check this out if you're interested. It's out in hardback, about £20 I think, so definitely go check this one out. I'm really enjoying it. It's really interesting, genuinely. I am going to try and get my partner to read some of this as well, because he won't be interested in some of the musical genres in here. He won't care about country or dance or pop or punk. But the R&B and the rock and the hip hop I might be able to get him interested in, so, because he's a DJ, my partner's a DJ. I'm very glad to be reading this. And yes, this is not in my quarterly haul because it arrived after I'd already filmed and then filmed the extra bit on top. So it's gonna go in the next one. And those are the books that I read, or the pages that I read I suppose, in September. I read 3,293 pages in September with this big stack that I'm not lifting again. I had a really good reading month, which I wasn't expecting. I managed to read everything on my TBR apart from the DNF, but I think that still counts. And I finished War and Peace and Labyrinth, which are two big books that I've been reading through for a while now, so I'm really, really pleased with that. Let me know down below, guys, what your favourite read or reads of September were. I have a few. These were mine. So, like I said, this is one of the best skullduggeries that I've reread so far. This is a fantastic non-fiction. This is a book I should have read years ago. I adore it. This is exactly up my alley. It is fantasy with death in it. Give it. And this, again, right up my alley. It is a character-driven YA fantasy with amazing plot building. All four of these are fantastic. So let me know your favourite read or reads down in the comments below, and if you managed to get this far into the video, put the book stack emoji in the comments because I read a lot of books. Thank you so much for watching, folks. If you want to see some more from me, all of my links are down below in the description to my book blog, my book Twitter, my Bookstagram and my Goodreads. If you want to see some more from me, please do hit subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please do hit like, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!